I've been a very big fan of Halios since pretty much their inception. I've owned just about every single one of their line of watches, and as the lines progressed, as the watches were released, they became more popular and they became pretty difficult to find. The last release of the Seaford, I was not able to get that through the website. I had to get that secondhand. And this latest Universal release, I actually tried, I set an alarm and I was ready to go on their website. And even within seconds after their release, they were all sold out. Well, I was finally able to get one, and not just one, but the actual variant that I had been looking for. So today we are going to take a look at the Halios Universa, the Pastel Blue, the fixed bezel. And here we go. First of all, I do want to talk about the case here. This is such a nice leather pouch, I guess you can call it a case. Nice zipper, thick zipper, the logo right here. And that's something I do want to commend Halios, and it's little things like this that really separate them from other micro brands. So a little bit on the brand. They've been around for not too long, especially compared to most watch companies. But as far as I understand, Halios is pretty much a one-man, a two-man show. And I've actually talked to Jason, and he's an awesome guy, very friendly, very helpful, but he's very limited in what he can do. So he releases these watches in small batches and they fly off the shelves. And like I mentioned earlier, it makes it very difficult to find these at retail price, but I was luckily able to find this one and at a very reasonable price, I think. Here it is. It's an absolute beauty. I was able to find this at a reasonable price, and I just had to have it. And we'll talk about why I prefer this over the diver watch releases they've had. So this is a Universa in Pastel Blue. So first of all, what do I love about this watch? I love a lot of things. First off, here is the no date on the dial. I'm a big fan of no date. As you can see from my Serica here, as you can see from my Speedmaster here. It's a big plus for me. I love hand winding watches, as you can see from my Serica here and my Speedmaster here. It offers a very thin profile. I love high crystals like this, again, as you can see from my Serica and my Speedmaster here. And just the indices are all applied. Absolutely love that. The big crown, love that you're able to it's very tactile. The indices just pop out, they're very high. The colors and the design, like always, Jason absolutely knocks this out of the park. This tip of the second hand there being orange just adds so much with so little. Just looking at it from all sorts of angles, it really does pop. I do like that this has a bracelet, an actual bracelet from the company. This is a very different design bracelet, very flat. And at first I did not like the looks of it, and I assumed I would throw this on the leather strap immediately. But after wearing this, I've actually been wearing this for a few days now. I absolutely love it, and we'll do some wrist shots in a little bit, and I'll tell you why I like that. Big logo on the crown. There's a lot to love about this watch, and really this makes a good argument for the whole uprise of micro brands. Lately we've been seeing a lot of these brands coming up, and some do deserve a lot of criticism, but Halios pretty much represents everything that's being done right on the micro brand level. You know you're getting a unique piece in the sense that these aren't mass produced in the thousands like pretty much all other watches out there. Everything is very carefully curated to, especially design wise. Absolutely fantastic. It's so simple, yet it's done so well. You're able to have a connection and real conversation with literally the owner of the company. I've talked to Jason a few times, and he's always been great at communicating. Anybody could just reach out to him, and he'll definitely have a good conversation with you. And really, the price point isn't the best, but for what you're getting, I really do think it's a great value. These, I believe, were priced under $800. So with everything I just mentioned, you'll be hard pressed to find something at a better price point. So with all of this in mind, the micro brands have been really exploding, but particularly Halios. I've always considered them to be kind of the spearhead of this movement, and with good reason. Every single watch has been a huge success. Every single watch sells out, and it seems like they're just knocking it out of the park every single iteration of their watches. Even though they're all very different, they're able to pull off everything really well if you're patient, because again, this is a one-man, two-man show. They do take a long time to produce. They do take a long time for them to get into your hands, but if you're patient, you absolutely will not be disappointed. So dimensions on this, I believe this is listed at 37 millimeters, but the long lugs here, 37 or 38, the long lugs here do make it wear a little bit bigger. But with that being said, the thinness of 11 millimeters is just super, super wearable. I have very small wrists and it fits fantastically. I've heard a lot of people with even smaller wrists that say this is a perfect watch for them because of the dimensions. It has a water resistance of 100 meters. And here actually it comes with this little postcard here, and it has a lot more information if you want to take a look at it all here. The movement information, here it is. It is a hand winding watch, which I love, and it's a non-screw down. And actually I do want to talk a little bit about that, because when I did the review on this Serica watch, which is in my YouTube channel, this was one of I was irritated by the fact that it has a screw down crown, yet it's only a hand winding movement. So in order for me to even get this to run, I have to unscrew it every single time. Ultimately, it hasn't been that big of an issue, but here we have essentially two very similar watches. Design wise, they're very similar. Specifications wise, they're very similar. Price wise, they're very similar. But even at that, I'm a big fan of Serica. I mean, the fact that I have this in my collection after so long is a big testament, since I sell so much. But they're very similar design-wise. They're both very small micro brands. They offer great value. But even at that, I think the Halios kind of takes the edge here with what you're getting. And I do want to emphasize that fact that I enjoy the hand winding without it needing to be screwed down or unscrewed. The downside of that is that you won't be able to screw it down if you ever take this into water. But at 100 meter water resistance, it shouldn't be an issue. I also wanted to bring out this Seiko here, just because they're very similar colors. On paper you would think they're similar, but even, I'm not sure if you can catch this on the camera, but even here, the Seiko is a lot more of a metallic blue, kind of like ice blue, what is often advertised as ice blue. Whereas the Halios here is clearly a pastel color. It's very mute, and it really does work well with that little tip of orange right there. I also have a review on this one if you want to check it out. Really, I don't think I've ever been disappointed by any Halios, and this one actually might be my favorite, the one I'm most impressed by, which is really saying a lot. The dimensions are fantastic, the price point. The only downside is they're pretty difficult to find, and to find them at retail, it's impossible. For some like these, unfortunately, the price is really crazy if you're buying pre-owned. But I was lucky enough to get a pre-owned one at a very reasonable price off somebody on Instagram. So I'm very thankful for that. But really, besides that, I would have probably never owned this one just because they're so expensive secondhand. But besides that, I have no complaints about absolutely anything. This is a killer watch, killer design. I've been wearing it for a few days, incredibly comfortable. And really, one of the things I do love is the lume. So let's go ahead and do some lume shots and lume comparisons and see how that works out. Like usual, we're not in complete darkness here, but let's go ahead and test this out. Yep, absolutely torch lume here. Every indice is loomed. The fact that the looms are applied and pretty high, it does make the lume pop out quite a bit. Absolutely beautiful, just look at that. Wanted to bring out the Serica also to check the lume on that and compare. I think the Halios really knocks it out, not just in the fact that it has a lot more, but in the strength of it too. And I absolutely love the Serica watch, and I think that really just is a testament of my taste. Both hand winding, both relatively small, both with a high crystal, both with very little complication, and a lot of that characteristic does go to my Speedmaster here. I really love these hand winding watches, and I guess the Halios would be classified kind of like a field watch, maybe a flight watch, but the blue color really does make it very versatile and honestly just a fun colored watch. So let's bring out the Seiko here, and really, if you haven't seen the review on this Seiko, it really is a cool watch with some really great lume that I was able to get for under $200. The review on this one is on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But ultimately, the Halios is just something really, really special. There's a reason why these watches are flying off the shelf. There's a reason why the resale value is just off the charts on these two, because they offer so much at a great price point. And ultimately they offer something that a lot of watches it's missing in a lot of watches, and it's that factor that you know everything is made pretty much by one person, two people, three people, and you know that your watch isn't crazy mass produced. You can talk to the owner, you know where your watch is coming from and where your money's going. That's something really difficult to find nowadays with these enormous mass produced watches. But even besides all that, just look at the depth on that dial. It's just something really special. But let's throw this on the wrist and see how that wears. Now, on the wrist, like I said earlier, this just disappears. The fact that it's so thin, it wears extremely comfortable. It wears very flat, but still very small. The lugs are a little bit longer, but the dial itself is a perfect size for my wrist. The big crown is not an issue with it being poking my hand like some people have said. I don't find that to be a problem. The bracelet is actually really comfortable, and the bracelet mixed with these long lugs really does create a very nice uniform design that I actually think I'm going to be keeping it on this bracelet. I wasn't expecting that, but ultimately I'm extremely pleased with this. I'm extremely excited to get it, and this looks like it might be a keeper in my collection for a very, very long time.